Thank you, Mary and Gary, for asking me to help celebrate the life of a man who stole my heart. When I first met Bill, he was the eminence grise of the Mountain NDP. He was an accomplished labor leader, alderman, community volunteer, and political activist. He was part of a very special cadre of friends that every progressive person in our city knew and loved. Bill Scandlan, Bob McKenzie, Bill Fuller, and Benny DeRoche. For all of them, being labor leaders and being New Democrats were two sides of the same coin. But while the other three were most closely associated with the East End of Hamilton, we on the mountain had Bill all to ourselves. And we were the beneficiaries of his unparalleled recollection of labor and CCF NDP history in our community. Did you all know that he picked up Pete Seeger and drove him to the picket line in 1946? How cool is that? And like Pete, Bill always knew which side he was on, boy. I was ever so blessed to have him on my side. Always. His support was as constant as it was unconditional. And I just assumed somehow that it would always be there. I know this will sound silly to some of you, but Bill seemed like the Energizer Bunny. Even as a nonagenarian, Bill went to more meetings, helped more of his friends and neighbors, and was more active in his community than the vast majority of people half his age. And his twinkling eyes and his ever-present smile were as full of life the last time I saw him as they were the first time we met. I don't think Bill ever turned down a request for help. Despite his illustrious career, no task was beneath him if he thought it would help his friend, his union, or his party. In my case, I realized just how humble Bill was when I was getting ready for my first nomination. I thought it would be a good idea to go to the library and research Beth Finney's parliamentary record, hoping that she might have said something that would give me fodder for the upcoming campaign. An afternoon of reading legislative debates is hardly anyone's definition of a good time, but it didn't matter to Bill. He and one other friend offered to go with me, and we spent an afternoon poring over Hansard and the very sparse oratorical contributions of my predecessor. After a couple of hours, we had a list of 4 things that she said that we all found outrageous. I was thrilled, thinking that 4 major points of attack would be more than enough for a decent speech on nomination day. On the appointed afternoon, I had the very good fortune of having Bill as my first nominator. So a few minutes before me, Bill gave his speech about why he was supporting me, and then went on to tell everyone why it was important to defeat Beth Finney. It was a fabulous speech, and covered every single point using the same quotations that I had planned to deliver just a few moments later. I was mortified. Not only had Bill given my speech, but he'd done it way better than I ever could, and I was much too nervous to rejig on the fly what I'd written down to deliver. So I learned 3 things. First, that Bill had a mind like a steel trap. Whereas I had taken copious notes at the library, I don't recall Bill even having a pen. And yet he remembered every single point of attack in its finest detail. Secondly, Bill loved an audience, and given the opportunity to speak, he would always give them his best. And third, Bill and I always saw things the same way, which meant that he had my back and I had his. Of course, I wasn't the only person that Bill helped over the years. Bill was indefatigable when it came to preparing tax returns for seniors in our community. He would visit them in their homes, take the paperwork away, prepare their taxes, and return it all to them for their signature. Being ever so thankful, they would offer to pay Bill for his work. But instead of accepting money for himself, he always said the same thing: "Why don't you donate to the NDP instead?" And magically, the donor base for all New Democrats in Hamilton grew. Those of us who were elected, of course, thought that it was because of our charm and good looks, when in reality, we had nothing to do with it. It was Bill's time and talent that begat our treasure. But don't get me wrong, Bill's primary motivation was never the money, even when it was for our party. Bill just simply always put service above self. So when he noticed in his preparation of income tax returns that literally thousands of people who qualified for a significant tax benefit as a result of their disabilities were not receiving it, he became like a dog with a bone. He was determined to right that wrong, and the most vulnerable in our community never had a better advocate than Bill. While private sector companies were taking 30% off the top for helping disabled citizens access a benefit that was rightly theirs, Bill set out to mentor and train dozens of others to do that work for free. He trained me and my staff. He trained Wayne Marston's staff. And he trained volunteers all over our city. He held workshops not just in Hamilton, but all over southern Ontario. And as soon as I got elected, he made me promise to bring the issue to Jack Layton's attention, because he knew that nothing would make an elector more grateful than a party that had delivered tangible results for their pocketbooks. And Jack took up his call. He raised it on caucus on numerous occasions, and there are caucus members to this day who have gone all over Canada to help spread the word and to train more people to continue Bill's work. I have never met anyone whose heart of gold led to such incredible volunteerism, which in turn he would organically connect to political strategy. It was pure genius. And it was the kind of pure values-based activism that is so hard to come by today. A few years ago, when I nominated Bill for Hamilton's Senior of the Year award, I did it because I believed then, as I do now, that he was one of our city's unsung heroes. In the process, I learned that my appreciation of Bill only touched the tip of the iceberg. His support for causes of social and economic justice was as broad as it was deep. He literally enriched the lives of thousands of Hamiltonians. We all should leave such a legacy. We would honor Bill's life if we did. When someone dies at 95 years of age, it would be hard to argue that he didn't live a long and full life. And yet, I think all of us would agree that Bill is gone far too soon. I miss you, Bill. You treated me like a daughter, and I couldn't have loved you more. Rest in peace.